Chuck Ridgeway is the Advanced Technology Manager at Horner Automation, a global US-based manufacturer of programmable logical controller (PLC) type products. Chuck has been in the automation industry for more than 3.5 decades, and within which more than 3 decades at Horner. Chuck spent a majority of his time at Horner as product manager, but has now found his place as online Horner ambassador, helping educate and train automation users and promote Horner products. Let's talk to him about automation in this episode. And in fact, I'm also very passionate about automation because a part of my day job involves simplifying and streamlining the processes, and wherever possible, we try to automate the processes by using simple tools like macros, and in some cases we go beyond macros and leverage some of the tools like robotic process automation and so on. But this is one of the favorite topics, and it is very dear to me. So folks, this is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. I'm your host Navin Samala, just a fellow professional on a mission to make the world a better place to live. And through the Guiding Voice, we drive conversations that matter, conversations that add value to your life and to your career. Thank you so much for tuning in, and Chuck, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice. Super thrilled to have you here as a guest on my show.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I really appreciate your podcast, and I'm looking forward to joining you for it today.
Awesome. So, Chuck, without further ado, let's get started. And let me find the first question. Can you share the top 3 things that have attributed to your success so far? And one thing which actually caught my attention is you have spent 3 decades with the current organization, right? And which is
sure,
which is one of the rarest things. Of course, during my stint with General Electric, I have seen many of my colleagues who joined as an intern and retired with the same organization. And likewise, there are very few instances wherein people stay such long, right? So, yeah, I'm curious to understand your success attributes as well.
Absolutely. So, I guess what's contributed to my success, I guess if we're going to talk about 3 things. First of all, I think I found a position that was suited to my talents. You know, we've all got God-given talents, and for me, interested in technology, but I'm also a people person, so I like to communicate. And I was able to find a position which kind of matched my skill set. That was an important part of it. Secondly, I found a position or a company to work for that really offered me the opportunity to kind of grow with them. So to grow in my career as the company growed. So that's the main reason why I've been at Horner for 30 years is, when I started Horner, there was just a few people in the automation group, and we just had a couple $1 million in sales, very small. And we've grown by 20 times that since I started. Wow. And over the course of that time, I went from, picking up the phones and being the tech support guy to writing manuals to being the product manager, which I did for a majority of my career, like my bio said.
Yeah.
And then at this point in my career, now I'm spending a lot of my time online, helping automation users and Horner customers and promoting our products.
Yeah.
So that's been great. So I really found the right position in my career to help me grow.
Yeah.
And then if there was a third thing, and this is something we can't overlook, is I have a support system. We through the course of our lives, right, we have crises that are going to come up.
Yeah.
Whether they're personal crises or whether they're career crises or whatever the case may be. So we all have to have a support system to help us get through that. And in my case, I have a family and a support system that has not only supported me day to day so I could travel the world and in my career as a product manager, and they supported me in that. But also, when I had tough times in my life for a variety of reasons, like we all do, I had the support system to help me get through that.
Yeah, many times we ignore the support system. We take them for granted. And it's good to see leaders like you acknowledging the fact that we are here because of our support system. Without them, I think we cannot move forward at all, honestly speaking. All right, now let's move to my next question, which I'm really curious about is, why did you get into this automation and what enthused you to choose this field?
Sure. So when I was a young student, right? I was good at math and science. And at that time, they were telling everybody who was good at math and science, you need to be an engineer, and specifically an electrical engineer. Now, my personal interests, I like, I had a Walkman, we're talking a long time ago. So I had a Walkman and a stereo, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll go design stereo systems or something. That requires electronic or electrical engineering. So that's where I decided, that's how I got interested in electrical engineering. And then when I picked a college, the college I picked only would allow you to go there to get your degree if you had a company sponsor you. So for your whole 5 years, it was a 5-year program. For your whole 5 years, you would go to school for a semester in engineering, and then you would go to work for a semester to kind of apply what you learned. So that's that. And there weren't any stereo systems at the automotive plant that sponsored me. So I quickly moved away from that thought, and then just kind of decided to learn what I could learn at the factory. Now, I worked on a lot of things over the 5 years in that factory, as I was trying to apply my engineering learning. But not 1 second did I work on automation. That's the irony of it. There was plenty of automation in the plant, but I didn't work on any of it. So, but what happened one of the things I learned at that plant was I didn't want to work full time in a plant in a very focused, dystopian type environment. I wanted to utilize my technology that I'd learned, but also in an environment where, I would have a little more variety, if you will. So I turned down an opportunity to be like a maintenance supervisor in the electrical engineering group. And instead, I had an opportunity to interview with the automation company that supplied the automation to our plant. And they didn't realize I didn't work for 1 second on their automation until they interviewed me. But for whatever reason, they thought I would be a good fit, and they were desperate for application engineers. So they trained me up, and that was my first job in automation. And that's really, I kind of got started in automation by accident more than anything else. That's what got me started. But when I got to Horner, that's when my love for automation kind of really expanded.
Okay. And now talking about your experience and journey with Horner, right? How it has been, like you said, it's been near a little over 3 decades, and you might have taken a lot of roles. And you said you started with automation, and then in between product management, and now focusing on this online branding and evangelizing about automation. So I'm really curious to understand the journey and what kind of roles did you take, and did the transition happen automatically there, or did you plan for the transition? Okay. Maybe every 3 years I want to be here to the next level.
Sure.
What has been your thought process there?
Well, let me give you an example of how things started, for instance. So first of all, the reason I joined Horner was because when I was, working for the automation company out of college, after a few years of that, I got to a point in my life where I wanted to get married, and my wife and I, or my wife-to-be and I, lived in different cities. So one of us was going to have to move. So I was looking for automation opportunities in her city. And I interviewed at Horner, which at that time was a very small automation company in Indianapolis. And they were looking for an application engineer to help them sell off-the-shelf GE PLCs. Yeah. They did some manufacturing of their own products that were in the automation area, but they were looking for help selling GE PLCs. That's what they hired me for, as a GE PLC application engineer. Well, from the time they hired me to the time I started, that position was eliminated because GE decided they wanted Horner to go full-time to developing products and not sell their products anymore. So my job was eliminated before I even started. So it was not planned, that's for sure. But when I started, they basically said, well, the job we hired you for is technically not there anymore, but we still need application engineers. We still need you to help our customers. So when the phone rings, pick up the phone and see what you can do. So I started out in tech support, supporting Horner customers. And then as we slowly started to grow, and I went from tech support to writing manuals for the products that we were developing. And the first big jump, really, as we really started to grow, was when I first got into product management. Because in product management, you're steering the direction of the products you think that need to be manufactured or designed. You're kind of helping with the specification of those products. And the other part that was key for me is it also involves getting out in front of customers and distributors and telling them about the products and promoting the products and learning from them what they need in their products. So that's where I had the opportunity to get in front of the public, in the terms of individual people and organizations, and utilize my people skills and really feed off of that. So I got the technology part of it, which I loved, but I also got the interaction with people and the opportunity to present and those sorts of things. So for me personally, that made a big difference. And then over the course of the years, it was not planned, as I mentioned. I never said, hey, at this time period, I want to do this, or this time period, I want to do that. It really came down to the need of the company. Because as we were growing, I was one of the key people that was helping facilitate that growth. But as the company needs changed, sometimes they would move me to a different position. So most of my time, I was the product manager. But for a period of time, I was a regional manager selling our products in the field. And that was very valuable to learn about, to spend more and more time in front of customers. And then for other parts of my time, I worked inside the company where I was, helping with manage the operations, which I didn't really like, but the company needed me for that period of time and I did it. But then I was able to, after a couple of years, to get moved back to a more suitable position because the company was in a better spot. So anyway, over the years, things have changed. And now we have a new kind of newer, at least, younger generation of engineers and product managers that are helping steer our growth for the future, which I love. And I'm able to kind of utilize my experience to really help automation users apply automation products in general, and of course, Horner products in specific, through some of the online type YouTube videos that we do and YouTube live streams that we do for mostly education related and training related.
So can you also share a couple of application cases for automation? What kind of product portfolio that you have at Honor Automation, and how are you guys helping clients?
Sure. So we manufacture, again, what you mentioned in the opening, a product called a programmable logic controller, at least a variation of a programmable logic controller. And what that really is it's kind of the heart or the brains of machine control. Okay, so it's what's used to determine kind of the sequencing of the operations when you're manufacturing something or controlling something. That's what that component does. Now, that component is so general purpose. When it leaves our factory, it really doesn't do anything on its own. You have to program it to do its thing, right? And we've had applications in all kinds of different industries. Now, when people think about automation, they always immediately in their brain, when they're talking factory automation at least, they think about an automotive plant where you've got an assembly line and you got robots and you got sparks flying as they're welding the body panels together and those sorts of things. And we've had applications like that for sure. But a couple of applications I want to mention are ones you wouldn't really think about. So one is like when you go to the grocery store to buy some fruit, buy some bananas. In the case of where we live in the United States, there's no bananas anywhere close being raised in Indiana. That's for sure. I can tell you in the Midwest. Those all come from overseas. Well, how do they get from overseas to my grocery store in a condition where they're not already spoiled? Well, there's automation behind that. So we have a longtime customer who's used our products to control fruit ripening rooms, whether they're in containers on ships or whether they're in warehouses once the bananas have been delivered to a warehouse. And by controlling the temperature and the gases, oxygen and CO2 and ethylene, which is kind of the magic ripening gas, if you will. By controlling the environment around the fruit, they can control its ripening to the point where when it gets to the grocery store, it's ready to finish the process of ripening, in your home. So that's all automation. Another one I want to mention that you may not think about is I'm a sports fan, like a lot of Americans are. American football is the sport I really like to follow. And when my kids were young, I would coach them in, whatever sports they were interested in. Well, there's a lot of sports fields around, and we have a customer that automates sports fields for a big municipality. How do you mean by automating? So what they do is, they've got all kinds of football fields or soccer fields, as we call it here, baseball fields, softball fields, tennis courts, all kinds of facilities that are lit. And so they have lighting that needs to be controlled, and they also need to have access control so that, that they're locked when they need to be locked and open when people need to be available. So what our customer does is they've set up an online system through a back-end website that allows sports teams to schedule time at specific facilities for practices and things. And then they can pay, for that access. And then it provides them with the access code. So when they get to the facility, they can type in our product, their access code that they've been given. The doors will unlock. They can go in. The lights will turn on if if that's appropriate for the time of day. They can have their practice. When they leave, the lights turn off. The gates are locked again. And then they've automatically gotten a bill for the access to the fields. And the municipality doesn't have the headache of scheduling the sports teams and billing the sports teams and all those sorts of things. It just happens kind of through this automation.
Yeah, it saves tons of time, not just time, but electricity and all other resources as well. That's the beauty of automation. Of course, my automation journey has been mostly on the business side, especially in the IT related processes. Like if you are dealing with some data, and data has to be downloaded from one source and again uploaded to some another source, right? We have automated that process by eliminating the manual intervention. So yours is more on the electronics side of it, so which is quite interesting. And
you bet.
Yeah, so check overall, you have over 3.5 decades of experience, right? So this brings to me to the next question. Talk by looking at your experience, right? How the technology has evolved in the last 3.5 decades. Can you provide a brief summary of technology evolution? Yeah,
absolutely. So when I started, a device like ours would be maybe 1/2 meter wide and 1/3 of a meter tall and 1/3 of a meter deep. So very large, right? Yeah. And our current product, which has a lot more power than that product had 35 years ago, is basically 10 centimeters by 100 centimeters by 100 centimeter. No, 10 centimeters by a cube, right? So 1/10 of a meter as a cube, really small, a lot more capability, a lot more power. So just, more power in a smaller package is one way it's evolved. The other way is the user interfaces are much more sophisticated. So machine control, when I started, it was push buttons and analog meters and those sorts of things. That's how you monitored and controlled a machine. Today, it's pretty much all done from a touchscreen locally, right? Just like with your phone, it's done with, pushing soft buttons on the screen, looking at graphs on the screen. Everything is done from a touchscreen. So that's a big, big change. And then finally, and this is ultimately going to get to where you're working. And right now, the third big thing is machine connectivity. So that's where, machines are no longer an island on their own where they're doing a job to automate a process and they're not connected to anything. Machines are now connected not only in a factory, but in a lot of cases, they're connected even to the internet. And so there's a lot more access to machines as data sources than there were when I started, for sure.
So I think Internet of Things is might have had a lot of impact on everything that you guys have been doing.
Yes.
Right. So, and this also brings me a few memories related to my work experience with General Electric. I spent about 11 years there. And during my stint there, GE developed this Predix platform, which is kind of operating system for the Internet of Things. Right, it is a
I'm familiar with Predix. Absolutely.
Predix. Right. So I think there is a lot of room, with this Internet of Things, and it is going to further simplify things, and it will, in a way, it will actually save a lot of natural resources, in my opinion. Right. So great.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wow. And I can give you an example of that.
Yeah, sure. Please.
You talk about the industrial Internet of Things.
Right.
So we all think of these traditional automotive plants and all that, and of course we figure there all data connected and those sorts of things. But think of something like a pizza oven, right? I mean, we all like food, and so at some point we get food prepared and go to restaurants. But think of a pizza oven. The main job of a pizza oven is to heat the oven to the proper temperature to cook the pizza, and is always a conveyor to move the pizza across through the oven as it cooks, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, now, so imagine a pizza oven that isn't just standalone, but a pizza oven that's connected, where you're monitoring the temperature all the time, you're monitoring how much energy is being used, whether it's gas or electric or what have you. You're monitoring how many pizzas are being produced and how long it takes to get that temperature up to its set point and how efficient it is and all those sorts of things. And if you're continuously feeding that data
Okay.
to a server. And imagine we're not talking about one pizza oven, but 1,000 pizza ovens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now suddenly you've got a lot of data that
Mm.
you can apply, machine learning and and AI type technology to utilize your energy more efficiently, to make your pizza better, because you're ultimately going to feed back parameters to help control it more evenly. And you have so many more benefits than just making a pizza that's really good locally.
Yeah, good one. I love the example, check. And this with that, let's move to the next question. And I'm also curious about the current trends in the automation industry, and especially the impact of AI and ML on this automation domain overall.
Right. And that's really, in some ways, is what I just talked about, right? We take machines that have been islands on their own traditionally, and now we connect them to servers and or the internet, right? Or to the cloud, if you will. We start gathering data or having those machines push key data up to the cloud. And now we've got all this data that we can somehow need to utilize, right? To make improvements, whether it's improvement in energy usage, improvement, lowering costs because of energy and other reasons, improving quality, whatever the case may be. And that's all areas where, AI and machine learning are going to come into play. And then some of the things that are being wrestled with today are how much of that sort of analysis and technology are we going to embed in the plant or in the machine itself, and how much are we going to leave for the cloud to do, right? So do we really need every little bit of data? Do we need the temperature of the pizza oven every 10 milliseconds to have the data we need to analyze? No. Is there some analysis that could be done even locally at the local facility? Maybe. So those are the sort of things that are being wrestled with today. How do we manage the data that we're gathering, and how much data is too much, and where do we analyze it, on the machine, in the cloud, or both, or etc.?
Yeah, it makes sense, because when we are bombarded with too much of information, also we'll be confused in terms of which data set to leverage, right? So it makes sense. And
exactly, we can't see the forest for the trees.
Indeed. All right. So check. I loved the conversation so far. Let's add some spice to the episode. I'm going to kick off a quick rapid fire round with your consent. If you're okay, let's get started. All right. So I'm going to I'm going to ask a few interesting questions, and where you can answer them crisply, like a one word or a maximum one phrase kind of thing. And let me try the first bullet. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Ooh. How about relax? We all need to work hard, but we need to relax too. So relax.
I love it. we forget to relax. Always in the rat race. All right. Yeah, I think that's a powerful message, I would say. And if you're given unlimited funding to work on a project, right, what would that be?
Oh, unlimited funding.
Yeah.
Well, I would say we sometimes get involved, at least a little bit, in projects where they automate things for sports fields.
Yeah.
For instance, and I'm not talking about the lights and the gates, but I'm a big fan of American football, and we have an application where they actually move the field in or out. They move the field outdoors so the natural grass can grow, and then they bring it in for the games, to the indoor facility for the games. I would love to work on an automation project with scientists and things where we automated the process of growing grass indoors without having to move it outside to get sun and stuff. That would be cool, because there's a lot of athletes that get injured on artificial surfaces, and eliminating those would be great. But we need to automate that process to grow that grass indoors.
Yeah, I think it comes with a purpose, and I loved it. Good one. And can you describe yourself in just one word, Chuck?
Competitive. Let's say competitive. If you come to my house for game night, you better be ready to compete, because I want to win.
All right, I'll test my luck when I visit
there you go.
the States next time. Moving to the next one. What is the weirdest thing that you have ever eaten?
Eaten. I've traveled a lot of different places, including India. and enjoyed my time there. I'm not a picky eater, but I'm not an adventurous eater. At some point in my career, I think I had chocolate covered ants or something, or chocolate covered insects. And I ate them and I thought to myself, who thought of the idea to pour chocolate on an insect? That didn't make sense to me.
Okay. Moving to the next one.
But if I had to eat an insect, I'd want to eat a chocolate covered insect.
Good one. I think it's a fantastic idea. If somebody throws it up as a challenge during truth or dare kind of things, I think this comes handy. This is a good trick.
There you go.
Yeah, here comes my next one. Between invisibility versus super strength, which one would you choose and what would you do first?
Invisibility or super strength?
Yeah.
I would say invisibility, which would allow me to kind of get into places without people knowing I'm there. And it would be what I would do, because I'm a sports lover, is I would go to some big sporting event that I've never been to before that I could never get tickets for, and I would just sneak in. like this week, there's the Masters golf tournament. As we tape this, and I would sneak into the Masters and watch the tournament.
Good one. And here comes the last one for rapid fire. What is one electronic gadget that you would like to see or invent yourself?
Like a lot of people, I get frustrated when I don't have internet access suddenly, whether I'm in a tunnel or wherever I am and I don't have internet access. So some sort of gadget that would allow me to get high-speed internet access no matter where I am. A chip would be better because they could embed it in the phone. So if I'm in a tunnel or underwater or wherever I am, I want to have high-speed internet. That's the gadget I want.
So one caveat with that is, like, people are at least nowadays spending a little bit of time talking to others. In case if unlimited internet is given, I think they'll never ever look at.
From a society standpoint, that would be a really bad idea. Our personal skills would go even further in the dirt. But maybe I could make that gadget only for me.
Okay. Fair enough. Good one. I love the rapid fire. With that, let's flip back to the mainstream. And here comes my next one. What will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to grow big in their careers?
Sure. I think when we focus on our careers, sometimes we focus too much on the monetary side of things. I think what we need to do is we need to look at ourselves honestly and figure out and think about what we do well. God gave us talents, individual talents, all of us. So find out what you do well, find out what you're passionate about, and then find a career where what you do well is valued, right? And if you're passionate and you're taking advantage of a natural ability that you have, and the industry you're in values that, then you'll never feel like you're working hard because you love what you're doing, and people will value what you're doing because you chose a field in which what you do well is valued. So that would be my advice. And in the end, if you do that, you're going to be rewarded intrinsically with a happy work life, which is important for all of us. We may not get the money we want, but intrinsically we'll have a happy work life.
Awesome. Great advice and so powerful as well. So folks, I hope you made a note. Just don't chase money alone. You have to find out what we do well, what we are passionate about. And we have to do it so well that it has to be valued. I think such a powerful message. And check, how has been your experience being hosted on The Guiding Voice, talking to me, and please share candid feedback.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy kind of sharing my experience with people and telling a couple stories. And you had great questions. I love your questions.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for your time and all the insights that you have shared. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to speak to you again on any other topic. And thanks, Marcy, for coordinating this. See you soon.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to host you. So, friends, that was our episode with Chuck Ridgeway on how automation is shaping the industry, the evolution of automation, and many other crucial topics. So, before we move into the trigger section, here is a request to you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app wherever you have tuned in from. Also, if you have loved this episode and found the conversation useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from our platform, The Guiding Voice. And one another important notice, The Guiding Voice is also available in 2 other Indian languages, in Hindi and Telugu. In case if you understand Telugu and Hindi, just search for The Guiding Voice, TGV Hindi or TGV Telugu on any podcasting platform, including YouTube. All right. So thank you so much in advance. Now let's hop into the trivia segment of today's episode. So today I was researching about automation and I found an interesting automation. Since we spoke to check on how Horner automation is actually transforming the industry, I thought I would present you with an interesting automation technique. There is a type of automation named after Detroit, and it is called Detroit automation, and it consists of moving parts from one machine to another while automatic adjustments are made to the positioning of the tools that shape them. For example, when a block of wood goes into the end of one machine and a finished wooden doll comes out of the another machine. Sounds interesting, isn't it? So which type of interesting automation have you come across? And if so, please share with me on social media, or if you're watching this episode on YouTube, feel free to comment. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning. And do not forget to share your topic recommendations and guest speaker suggestions through social media or email me at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. I'm your host, Navin Samala, just a fellow professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make the world a better place to live through conversations that matter and conversations that add value to life and to your career. Until next time, bye-bye. Signing off for this episode.